Have you ever taken a road trip? I'm guessing that before you even got started, you mapped out a route, booked hotels along the way, and most importantly, you had a destination in mind. Trading and investing are actually very similar to your road trip. You wouldn't want to start buying and selling stocks without some type of plan in mind. I'm Scott Connor, a 30-year veteran trader, and today you'll be learning how to build an investing plan right here on Virtual Trade. Welcome to Virtual Trade. I'm Scott Connor. In this episode, we'll discuss the basics of building an investing plan. In Tools of the Trade, we'll focus on the Trade tab and entering stock orders. And finally, we'll sit down with new trader Jenny Horne and create an investing plan. An investing plan helps you decide in advance what you plan to do and how you'll do it. This recreates a repeatable process that can take the guesswork out of investing and make the investing process much easier. Now, each investing plan includes 6 important components: the objective, watch list criteria, entry guidelines, money management, exit guidelines, and finally, routines. Before joining TD Ameritrade, I spent several years playing competitive tennis and then several years as being an instructor as well. And I always enjoyed teaching beginning players because they knew the importance of fundamentally focusing on technique and, of course, fundamentals. Now, investing is very similar to tennis. Understanding fundamentals and techniques is critical to their future success. Now, let's dive into the first items on our investing plan checklist.
Let's begin with objective, which represents the specific goal of your investing plan. Once you have this in place, you'll set rules based on your desired outcome. An objective can vary from the goal of an individual trade to the goal of your entire portfolio. Because each objective has a different scope, investors may implement multiple objectives simultaneously. For example, you may use one investing plan with an objective that concerns your overall portfolio, such as asset allocation among stocks, bonds, options, and cash. And then you could have another investing plan for a specific asset class, like stocks. This plan could help you decide which stocks to buy, when to buy them, how many shares to buy, and when to sell them. Now on to the next component, the watch list criteria. This section details what specific qualities you're looking for in an investment. Any investment that meets these criteria will be added to your watch list. Watch list criteria will differ for each investor. Some investors might create a watch list based on a company's financial statement, which is known as fundamental analysis. Other investors might use price and volume movements to determine whether a stock fits their watch list criteria. This is technical analysis. Many investors combine elements of fundamental and technical analysis into their watch list criteria because both can help determine which securities to watch. Once you've created your watch list, you need to determine when to buy. These are known as entry rules, guidelines that dictate when you'll purchase a security on your watch list. Determining your entry rules before you buy reduces the guesswork when deciding when to enter a trade. Entry rules may be different depending on the investor, but here's one simplified example. Let's say you have company stock XYZ on your watch list and are waiting for the correct time to buy. Your rules dictate that you'll invest in a stock. For example, you might choose to invest when the stock's price breaks resistance with high volume, say 150% of the daily average. With this rule in place, you keep an eye on the chart.
So to recap, having a plan can help define specific goals. And remember, watch list criteria will differ for each investor. And finally, defining clear entry and exit guidelines will help remove emotion from the process of investing. Now, let's take a look at the final building blocks of an investing plan.
How much do I buy? This is when you consult the money management rules component of your investing plan. Your money management rules define your position sizing guidelines. To put it another way, this is where you weigh your portfolio size and your risk tolerance to figure out how many shares to buy. When it's time to buy, you should first look at your portfolio to determine how your transaction will fit in the big picture. For example, you may have a rule that you won't invest more than 10% of your portfolio in any one security. If you have a $100,000 portfolio, you wouldn't invest more than $10,000 in a single security. Now that you know what to invest in and when to buy, let's move on to the next investing plan component, your exit rules. Exit rules are important because you've already determined the acceptable profit or loss before entering a trade. For example, one investor might have an exit rule to place a stop order at 3% below recent support levels. If the price hits this level, it will trigger the order and the security will automatically be sold. Creating these rules in advance removes emotion and uncertainty from your trading exits. You'll know what to do no matter which direction the market goes. Now all you have left to do is create a routine and follow it. This will help you make sure everything is in its right place. Often a routine consists of quarterly, weekly, and possibly daily actions. Your routine can involve everything we've mentioned so far: maintaining your objective, creating and updating a watch list, buying and selling assets in line with your entry and exit rules, and balancing your portfolio according to your money management rules. With an investing plan by your side, you'll soon feel confident every step of the way.
As we wrap up today's Trade Lab, it's important to remember the following. First, have an investing plan can help build confidence for new traders and investors. Second, maintaining your objective, creating and updating a watch list, and buying and selling assets in line with your entry and exit guidelines are important steps in building a routine. And finally, it's always important to reassess your trading plan periodically. As you continue to learn and grow, your investing plans should change with your investing needs and goals. Welcome back. It's time for Tools of the Trade. Every day we look at various tools within TD Ameritrade, Thinkorswim, and Mobile Trader. In this segment, we'll be focusing on the Trade tab and entry mechanics on Thinkorswim. But before we jump into the Trade tab, we're going to be considering two stock scenarios. First, buying a stock for a longer-term portfolio, something like Jenny's stock portfolio. And second, we'll look at buying a stock with a stop order for a potentially shorter-term trade. So let's get started by diving right into the Thinkorswim trading platform. And as you can see, I am on the Trade tab. Now, once we're in the Trade tab, down below in the symbol box is where we're going to need to put in the symbol of the stock we want to trade. Remember, if you don't know that symbol, simply start typing in the name of the company. Let's choose McDonald's for our example here this episode. I'll start typing in the name McDonald's, M-C-D-O-N. And as you can see, before I even finished, the symbol pops up right there for me. So just go ahead and click on that symbol. It populates, and now we're ready to go. Let's review quickly just how to buy a stock to add to a portfolio. Very simple. We move our mouse over the ask price. You can see your cursor even shows the word buy. Left click one time, and there's our order. Now, of course, we can change quantity, we can change price and time in force, but that's how simple it is to create a buy order. Well, I'm going to go ahead and delete that now. And what we'd like to focus a little bit more on is talking about investment plans. And we did talk a little bit about stop orders. So let's go through the process of buying a stock, but at the same time, entering a stop order with that particular buy. So here's how we do this. It's a little bit different. We're going to move our mouse to the ask price, quite simple. Right click this time and go down to buy custom and move over to with stop. So simply what we'll be doing is entering our order to buy, but at the same time, a potential stop order that will kick in. And of course, we'll determine at what price that stop order would kick in. So as you can see, we have our buy order here, and then down below we have our stock order. Now, first thing we're going to need to do is change our quantity of shares. I'm going to click on the quantity column right here, and let's go ahead and change that number from, let's see, I believe we were about 100 shares as our default, or 100, and I'm going to go ahead and change that to 25. Let me just back up here, put in 25. Now, obviously, if we're buying 25 shares, we're going to also want to sell 25 shares on a stop order. Want to make sure that those two numbers match up. So we'll do the same thing here, clicking on that price and doing the same thing here and generating 25 shares as well. Now we're good to go. So we've got 25 shares to buy, 25 shares on our stop order. Now, what else do we need to do on this? Well, let's go to the right side. Take a look at some of the specifics of this order. You can see we're trying to buy the stock. Again, if we're going to start off in our example of trying to buy the stock at a slightly lower price. So let's go ahead and set that up as well. And under price here, I'm going to go ahead and change that to, let's say, $158. So maybe if the stock were to drop about $1, that would give us the price that we're looking for. Now what you'll see down below, once I hit enter, is that by default, it will put in our stop order $1 lower. $1 lower than our current bid price or our limit price. So this order won't fill unless the stock actually drops down to our limit price of 158. And in that case, by default, our stop order would kick in at 157, $1 lower. Now there's a couple things we can do here to change that. One of the things I'm going to do is click on the link here, and that gives me the ability to set our trigger price not by $1 lower, but by a dollar change in the stock. Or if I click on it again, you can see that. But how about this one, percent change? Let's go ahead and use percent on this one, give you an example of how that works. So let's say the stock drops, if the stock were to drop, about 15%. We'll just use that as a round number, hit enter. So if the stock drops 15%, that's where we want our stop order to trigger. So if we do purchase the stock at 158 and the stock drops 15%, that's where our stop order will kick in. So you can see you have three different ways of setting your stop. A percentage amount, the dollar amount, and also our third choice, which would be the stair-step ladder. We'll come back to that one. Now, what else do we need to do on this one? Well, if we want to buy our stock at 158, which is lower, let's change our time and force to GTC. Not necessarily just today, but let's go to GTC. Now, of course, we're going to want our, as well, to have our stop order working GTC, so that if we do buy our order, we want that stop order to be in there each and every day in case the stock does drop 15%. Now, next step, go ahead and confirm and send. This gives us, of course, our chance to verify the order. Here's our order to buy 25 shares at the lower price of 158. When that order is filled, our stop order becomes effective. And our stop order, again, is to sell our stock if the stock were to drop 15% from our purchase price of 158. And now that order is ready to go. It's a GTC order, so in other words, it will stay in there up to 6 months before we would have to reconfirm that particular order. All right, so that gets us to the point where we've gone through the process of sending the order out. Now, how do we follow it from here? Well, let's go ahead and send this order out. The market is live, and what we're going to do is jump back to the monitor page. Now, when you're on the monitor page, this is a great way to go after you've entered an order to verify that it is still working. Well, where do I find that? Well, of course, it's on the monitor page right here under Working Orders. Now take a quick look. When I open the Working Orders box by clicking on it, let's verify that our order is in fact working. And sure enough, there it is, our order to buy 25 shares at our limit price, and of course where our stop order kicks in if it drops 15%. So that gives us a quick sort of synopsis of how to enter what we do in the case of setting a stop order as part of our investment plan. All right, now I know we ran through that pretty quick, so let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and delete this order, and let's go through, well, actually I'll leave this one in. Let's go back to the trade page and try it on another stock. All right, and let's pick another one, a popular name. How about Facebook? Again, I can start typing in F-A-C-E, Facebook, and then of course, let's see if I get book in there. There it is. FB is the symbol. We're good to go, Facebook. All right, let's go through the same process again. Again, we want to buy the stock. We'll put in a price a little bit lower than the current trading price, and then again, set up a stop order. This time we'll use a actual stock price for our stop order instead of a percentage drop. All right, let's go through the process again. Move to the ask price, right click, drop down to buy custom, and move over with stop. And of course, then you can see, here's our order again to buy our stock and our stop order. It will be triggered this time by the number we choose to put in. All right, let's go ahead and go through the same process, change our quantity here to Facebook is trading about 192. Well, it's the same thing. We'll put 25 shares in, make sure that matches with our sell order, or our stop order, excuse me, 25. We've got those all set. Current price is 192, so let's go ahead and change that to maybe 190. Let's say if it drops down to 191, that's our entry point. Of course, we're just picking arbitrary numbers right now, and you can see that our stop order now kicks in at 190. Again, that's that default $1 lower than our purchase price. All right? So what if we wanted to change that from not just that number? Let's go ahead and click again on the link, and let's go ahead and tell you what we'll do. We'll go ahead and just use a number this time instead of a percentage, and here's why. Perhaps you'll be looking at something like a chart. and maybe seeing that there are certain support areas for a particular stock, in this case Facebook. If that stock were to get down to a certain support area and broke through, that might be a point where maybe we would not want to own the stock anymore. So maybe we'll use something like that for our trigger point. Let's just go ahead and say in this case, we looked at the chart and we saw that the support number for Facebook was at 185. We'll just use that as a number. All right, so let's go down and set 185 as our stop trigger price. All right, so let's click on that price right there. Again, let's back up and we'll put in 185. And now we have our trigger price in there. I'll hit enter, and now we are good to go. Make sure we change, again, our time and force to GTC in both cases so that they do match. In other words, if we do get filled on our price, we will now have the order working, the stop order working on a GTC basis. And that order will stay in there working, like I said, for at least up to 6 months. Now, let's go ahead and same thing we did before, click on confirm and send, make sure that everything is set up for us. Take a quick look. Let's run through these numbers real quick. We're buying 25 shares of Facebook, as you can see, at our price of $191. And then just down below, you can see our stop order, which will be triggered this time by a stock price of $185. And again, remember, the stop order will not go in until we fill and buy our 25 shares of Facebook at our limit price. Let's do the same thing. We'll send that order in. And just like we did with McDonald's, let's go back to the monitor tab, and we should now see 2 orders in there working. Sure enough, we can see McDonald's, and now here's the new Facebook order that is working side by side. And don't forget, you can always cancel these orders right from the monitor tab by right-clicking and dropping down to cancel order, which you can see right here at the top of the list. And don't forget, for more information on these tools and other great education, visit the Education Center on tdameritrade.com. Welcome back to Virtual Trade. I'm joined by our new trader, Jenny Horne. Jenny, welcome back.
Thanks for having me again, Scott.
Good to have you here. Well, Jenny, let's kick things off by you maybe sharing a little bit with us some of your longer-term investment goals.
Absolutely. So being a young trader, I do have lots of goals, I guess, because I'm kind of starting from scratch. So with this portfolio we're building, I would like to see capital appreciation. I would like to grow my fund successfully. And also I would love to eventually down the line invest in a home instead of renting like I am now. And also invest in a car, because I don't have a car. And I think something that's really important to me is much more down long term, building a family eventually, and so I do have to save money for that. So I have lots of things I want to save a lot of money for, but those are some of the biggest ones.
Well, Jenny, these are all long-term goals I'm sure many investors that join us have in common. Mm-hmm. So let's do this then. We've established our stocks, but let's learn a little bit more about the actual companies themselves. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and take a look at the profiles of these companies in a dynamic functionality that we find on the Thinkorswim software that will actually break down what these companies do so you can get a little more familiar with them.
Yes, I'm super excited because these are companies I am familiar with, but I don't really think I know much of the backstory of them in terms of trading and stock, so I have a lot to learn here.
All right, great. Well, we started with these stocks because they're ones that we used in our daily life, but now let's get to know them. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go ahead and click on Apple in our watch list. I'll let you go ahead and do that, Jenny. Click on Apple, and of course, since everything is linked throughout our platform, we're on the Trade tab now, but what we're going to do is go to the Analyze tab.
Okay.
And now you can see Apple's already in there because it's linked with that yellow color.
Great.
And you can see what we're going to do is move over to Fundamentals, and I believe we're already in the Fundamentals, so we're in the perfect spot. Now you can see underneath the symbol Apple, there's a couple different subcategories there. Let's just start from the top and we'll work our way down.
Okay.
And learn a little bit more about Apple. So go ahead and click on Overview. Now you can see the first thing here, Jenny, is Apple gives you the current price. You can even buy and sell from this point on the Thinkorswim platform. But just below the symbol Apple, it says Apple Inc., and it gives you a link there, or it's actually an underlined word there. It says Information Technology. That's a quick way to find out what sector.
Right, I remember the sectors. Okay, great.
All right, now all the information you see below comes from third-party sources, and these are analysts' sort of outlooks into the future, that they buy, they hold, some of them have star ratings. To get a little more information, Jenny, to the far right, you can click where it says download, and you have access to more detailed information from them. All right, well, let's jump to the next one, which is Company Profile. And I like this one, Jenny, because underneath Apple Inc., you can see the blue link or hyperlink to Apple the Apple website itself.
Right, even their phone number and address. It's funny.
Yeah, and actually that's a good place to go to if you want to get information from a company, let's say to verify a dividend date or something like that.
I think this is really awesome because also it tells you a little bit more about their products. Like if you weren't, I mean, Apple's huge, so we're familiar with it obviously, but if this was a company that wasn't as well known, I like the way they go ahead and say what their services and products include, like iPhone, Mac, Apple Watch. That kind of gives you more of a picture of what this company really does.
Right, it is a profile, as you can see, and it kind of tells you if they own any other subsidiaries, what businesses they're in, et cetera, et cetera. All right, well, let's keep going down to where it says by the numbers. Now we're gonna have to scroll down a little bit here, Jenny.
Yeah.
But this is an interesting sector, or this drop down, because this, to me, is like the accounting. If you want to get into the numbers of the company, where do their revenue sources coming? What's their earnings per share? What's their dividend per share? What have been the 5-year trends for all these things? This is a wealth of information.
Right, I really like the 5-year trend just as a visual. It's very nice.
And you can see earnings, profitability, financial ratios, but there's some very popular things that people look at, like PE ratios and things like that.
Yes, I've heard of that before.
Yeah, this is a great one if you really want to dig in sort of the books and go back and see over 5 years how the company's done or how they performed over that time.
Awesome.
All right, well, let's keep going down.
Yeah.
What else? What would be the next main category? And this is company details. And I'll let you go ahead and scroll up. And again, this is just a little bit more breakdown than the company profile we read up above. Instead of one paragraph, it sort of breaks down now the company within its sector, competitors, potential upsides and downsides, things that you probably would want to be aware about of your stock.
Great. So this is kind of the most recent news, what's really going on with the company.
Right. You can see in the case of Apple, they're talking about new launches, new releases, potential downsides, pricing competition, all those kinds of things. So good to know.
I never even knew that this tab had all this information.
All right. Well, let's go down. Because there's one more that I like as probably one of my favorites. That is at the very bottom.
What
drives the stock? Now we're going to have to scroll up to see this. This is an interesting graph. This is I like this one because it shows you where the revenues come from Apple, for example. I'm going to grab the mouse right now and just move my mouse over where it says iPhone, and you can see that about 53 or 54% of the revenues or the money that Apple makes comes just from the iPhones.
Yeah, this is incredible. I never had any idea this was here. And this is something that's kind of difficult to find if you're just searching for it on the internet.
Oh,
this
absolutely.
is great information.
And of course, you have a further breakdown of where what they make in services, the iMac, the iPad, all those other things are all broken down here. As a matter of fact, I'm going to click on one of these, and you can actually go through the process of changing some of the parameters out several years to kind of see what that might do potentially to the stock price right here.
Oh,
so
wow.
Actually, it's a kind of a fun tool.
Yeah, and iPhones in particular are one of those things where prices have really increased, so this is really cool to look at.
Okay, one other thing before we go. We're on the Analyze tab. When you are on the Trade tab, Jenny, you're also able to access some of this information. We have a quick link here called Company Profile, and if you do that from the Trade tab, Jenny, look what you get.
What we just saw.
Yep, and it just jumps to the last two, so it doesn't give you all that in-depth information, but it's a quick look at that, what drives the stock.
Cool, so kind of a shortcut just through the Trade tab.
Exactly. You'll find that, Jenny. There's lots of ways to get to things throughout the platform using different methods. All right, well, listen, we've got through all that. We are getting to know our stocks a little bit, so why don't we wrap this up by talking a little bit about daily routines. Now that you've built your watch list, we've bought the stocks, you're learning about them, what about your daily process? So each day when you want to take a look at your portfolio or find out what the market's doing, let's talk about a daily routine.
Yes, I think that's really important because if I'm putting so much money towards an investment, I would like to keep an eye on it.
So obviously we're going to start off by logging into the platform. If you haven't downloaded the platform, go to tmeritrade.com and go ahead and download the Thinkorswim software. Secondly, we're going to make sure we want to keep an eye on our watch list. Obviously we want to watch our stocks, but don't forget, Jenny, if you click up at the name of this watch list, you have lots of other pre-built, what we call public watch lists that you can look at and scroll through these to take a look at what's happening with other major indices. So that's a good step each day. And of course, then you can also check news.
Yes, I mean, news is something I follow every single day, so that's something I would hopefully be keyed in on prior to this, but.
Well, let's jump to the chart. Let's say we had Apple on our chart. On the right-hand column, I can't see it quite here, but you'll have what's called news. Just click on the little button there. That will show you news, and don't forget, that's something we could also do on the watch list themselves. We can always switch the gadget right here and go to use the news. Click on that.
Oh.
And of course, that's one way we can go ahead and do that. If we want live news on the company, then we'll give you information just about that stock.
Great, and this is updated so readily. That's really nice.
Absolutely. Don't forget to put in your symbol for the individual stock. Okay, Jenny, how did you feel about this exercise?
I feel really great, Scott, and I know I mentioned this every episode about how much I learned, but I think this is really helpful to get towards some of those investment goals I mentioned at the beginning.
And I think we did accomplish that. Well, listen, thanks again, Jenny, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Scott.
In this episode, we explored why investing plans are essential. We also discussed several elements common to many investing plans: watch list criteria, entry and exit guidelines, and position sizing parameters. And finally, on the Thinkorswim platform, we looked at how to enter a stock order with a stop loss. I'm Scott Connor, and thanks for watching Virtual Trade.